welcome to your 12th and final for the grant year NAL-ED group coaching session on this lovely Thursday. I know all of you are now back in school, so I appreciate you taking some time out this afternoon. We'll go ahead and do our official disclaimer.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education Contract Number ED-ESE 15A0015/0006 with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
All right. So today you're going to see we have a little bit of a mixed bag of things. And that's mainly because I had said whatever y'all wanted to cover in this last session, I would try to squeeze it all in. So covering quite a few different things. We're going to talk about some virtual field trips that I'm really excited about, and will probably now just be spending my evenings instead of watching Netflix, just going on random virtual field trips now. A resource for creating scavenger hunts. And I know Charlene was just sharing before everybody got logged on that she's using a scavenger hunt as a form of assessment, which sounds like a really fun way to be able to do assessment in this virtual learning environment. So this might be a tool that could help with that as well. We'll talk about some kind of academic type resources with real world math, Google Lens, and Socratic. And then we'll finish up with some resources for some trauma-informed teaching and learning. So some things from Teaching Tolerance, StoryCorps, and the Global Oneness Project. So like I said, a mixed bag, but a lot of good stuff that I think you'll find useful this year. So first off, we're going to talk a little bit about virtual field trips. So I have put together, thus far, I'm still adding to it, but we are up to 132 virtual field trips for you. So that should at least get you started on the school year. And as we think about these virtual field trips, just a few tips. Just like when we're thinking about regular field trips during the school year, that while they are super fun, students love them, it's a way to really get them engaged with content. It's important to align it with the content that we really are trying to work with the students, so that it's not just this superfluous activity that's not connected to our learning goals. So looking for things that are really going to connect with our regular content. Think about the pre-trip and post-trip activities. Sometimes this gets lost in a virtual field trip environment because we automatically go to, well, we're going on the field trip because it's virtual. But just like when we go to an in-person field trip, we want to think about what we need to do ahead of time to set up that learning, what we want the students to be looking for or participating in during that virtual field trip. And then when we come back together, how can we reflect on the field trip, pull out that learning, and drive it home? Think about using a map, particularly if you're going to do multiple virtual field trips this semester or throughout the year. Think about using a map to both plot where you're headed and where you've been. That can be a neat way to kind of connect the various field trips. Definitely suggest checking the technology on all the field trips in advance. Even just between when I started pulling virtual field trips a couple of months ago and when I made the page actually live, some of them that were maybe doing some live webcams had stopped, so I had to pull their links down. So definitely morning of your virtual field trip, just double check that everything's still working. I like to pull that page up so that it's fully downloaded, because sometimes if it's like a pre-recorded virtual field trip so that it's a little bit of a bulky file, even if I'm not downloading it to my computer, I just want it to go ahead and fully load to the website so that then when we're trying to play it, it's not buffering the whole time, which can be frustrating. And then the final tip is to think about traveling frequently. This can be a great way to break up instruction, drive home some of those real world connections. And even once you're back in your in-person classroom, I think these are really fun because this allows you to travel to and explore places and concepts that might be far beyond the reach of a normal in-person field trip. You know, one of the things is to do a virtual field trip on the International Space Station. Well, no matter how great your field trip budget or how lenient whoever it is that signs off on your field trips, I don't think you're going to get to take your kids to the International Space Station in person. So, you know, gives you lots of opportunities to explore things that you just can't do in an in-person field trip. So let's go straight to the resources. And remember, if you have questions as we're going along, unmute and ask or pop them in the chat box, whatever you prefer. But here is our ginormous list of field trips. So it's a just very basic spreadsheet. This is on the resource database. I think all of you on, for the most part, I know have accessed this before. If you have not, I will send the link back out, but also if you have any trouble accessing it, let me know. If you're sharing it with a team member, maybe a new team member this year, keep in mind that it is only accessible to NAL-ADD grantees. So if they haven't accessed it before, I may need to add their email address, but that takes 2 seconds. They can either hit request access or just shoot me an email. So as you look at this spreadsheet, like I said, we've got, I believe we're up to 131 different virtual field trips and still adding. The nice thing being you can filter these. So if you click, if you see this little arrow right here by content area, you can click that. And if you're looking in particular for one regarding animals, you can click that. Clear those, and I just want animals, and hit OK. And it's just going to bring up the animal-oriented field trips. And then you can decide, okay, you know, are you looking for maybe sea life? Maybe you want this jellyfish cam, or like the Georgia Aquarium has a couple of different virtual field trips. Maybe you want to explore polar bears through the Uahan Zoo. You know, lots of different options there for you to explore. You can check out pandas, go on an African safari, all kinds of different things. And then you can go back in, select all, bring back all the options for you. You can also, we've got things for like farming. So if you want to connect with farming, there's things about farming animals and food, different geographical history, specific things that relate to Native American history and culture. Lots of good nature and science ones. There's even some sports ones if you want to go on a virtual field trip to Yankee Stadium. That's available. So really options for everybody. And then you can also just scroll through and see. Now I do want to show you just a couple of them. And by the same token, if you know of a great one that you don't see on this list, send it to me and we'll add it. Because this is, you know, our collaborative list. So if you know of a great one I've missed, let's add it on there. But the first one in particular I wanted to point out to you is this Discovery Education. These are free virtual field trips. You can go on live ones or watch them on demand later. So if when they're showing it live doesn't work for your kids in your class, then they'll be recorded. You can watch it on demand later. But just pointing out in particular, they're no cost, so they're the right price. And they all come with a companion guide that has standards aligned hands-on learning activities. Okay, so lots of things there, and you can see kind of the featured ones. So like Constitution Day is coming up, so you could always jump in on that. You can filter them by subject area. So if there are certain subject areas that you're particularly interested in, you can search. So if you in particular were wanting something on, is there anything that they have for South Dakota? No. But if I want something about bears, you can look in, and they have two different things. They happen to both be about polar bears. Apparently, Discovery mainly goes on field trips to polar bear areas, but you can just see what's there. So they're not going to have everything there, but they have a lot of things there. So just an option to check out. Another good one is what's called 360 Cities. And so with this, you can get still images or you can get live videos, but even the images, they're 360-degree images. Okay, so let's say that I want to go to Anchorage, Alaska. So I'll just search Anchorage. And you'll see I've got 183 of those 360-degree images that I can explore or use with students. This particular one doesn't have any videos, but 183 different images that I could explore. And so you can do that with places all over the world. So there's the first two. The next one is one of the ones, this one is on Indigenous dances of North and South America. And this is one of the ones that puts together a couple of different resources into one field trip. So they collaborated with the National Museum of the American Indian in their exhibit on Circle of Dance. And other than just these basic images here, it's actually put together this guide for your field trip. Okay, so it suggests, okay, go to this website, do this. Read this article, go to this website and check out in particular this thing on dance styles and watch a powwow online. Watch a video about why we dance. Then go to this video of an Oglala Lakota Nation powwow from National Geographic, a video on making regalia. And then there's an article about a music video that was representative of Native dance. So it kind of puts a multitude of resources together so that it's a multi-part field trip. So that's another kind of option that's within some of these, is that they've put together multiple pieces to make kind of a multi-stop field trip experience. The next one is Skype in the Classroom. This is another one that's free. And through this one, they offer a couple of different things. So when you're on Skype in the Classroom, you can go down, they have virtual field trips. Okay? So you can sign up for a virtual field trip or watch a pre-recorded one. You can actually be partnered up with another classroom and do a cultural exchange. So that could be an interesting thing to do. You can do a guest speaker. So it could be an author, it could be a professional from a certain field, all types of guest speakers. You can not only get partnered up for like a cultural exchange with the classroom, but you can do a collaborative project where they actually partner you up with another classroom that wants to do a collaborative project. You can explore themed collections. So you can look up different themes or look at some of their suggested themes. And like the last one we looked at, it'll put a multitude of resources together for you. And then they have live special events. So like the next one that they have coming up is a series about Dr. Jane Goodall. So you can see what live things they have coming up that might be pertinent to you, might not. But that's all through the Skype in the Classroom one. And that's listed in the spreadsheet, so it's there. All of these that have the multiple contents, you'll notice when we're in the spreadsheet, that's one of the options here is multiple. And so if you select that, it's the ones that have different things. So they didn't easily fit into just one content area. So you'll see you've got lots of things that fit into multiple areas. All right, our next one is Google Expeditions. So this one is really neat. You can download it onto a phone. You can download it onto a tablet. It doesn't matter if your students have Android devices or Apple devices, and they don't have to have any special software, any special hardware to be able to do virtual reality and augmented reality field trips. Okay, so you can see like this kid has actually put a dinosaur in his classroom because why not? But in particular, I'm gonna scroll down, you can get like these really interactive science things, like here explaining kind of the circulatory and pulmonary systems, go into the world. So you can request these kits that actually do have like some little virtual reality viewers for when you're back in your in-person classroom. But really, particularly for this distance learning, you don't have to have that stuff. Okay? If you just download the Expeditions app, you're going to be able to go on these field trips, and you'll see there's more than 900 that are virtual reality and more than 100 that are augmented reality. So the virtual reality are the more traditional virtual field trips. The augmented reality are the kind where like the world is now in the classroom, the dinosaur is now in the classroom. So kind of bringing those things in. But lots and lots of cool things. Even just for fun, download it on your phone and play with it yourself. See all the different things that are available there, but they're neat field trips. Now, in collaboration with this Google Expedition thing, another thing that you can do is you can actually create your own custom field trip. So what you use for that is called Tour Creator. It's another Google product. It's another thing that's free. So you go to Tour Creator, and like it says, you're going to build your own immersive 360-degree tour right from your computer. So you'll see you can add in these existing 360-degree photos. You can highlight in particular points of interest, add other still photos. And I'm going to show you what one looks like. I've already got it pulled up so we wouldn't have to worry about trying to get it to load. And they have templates. This one you can actually use as a template. So if there's already one that kind of has some of the stuff you want, you can use it as a template and then just tweak it. So you'll see this particular one was created by a teacher. They were teaching about the 7 new wonders of the world, one of which is Chichen Itza. And so they've got this 360-degree image of Chichen Itza that can be explored. They've included a little description here of how, you know, it's like a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a little bit of background about it and how it was built by the Mayans. They've included narration. So if we play this, you can actually hear the teacher talking about Chichen Itza. And then you'll notice we've got these 3 little eyes. So I can either click on the eye and it's going to tell me, oh, that's the ball court and what ball games were. And again, I can play that bit. I could add an image to it. So maybe if I had another image that actually showed what the ball games would look like, I could do that. Okay. Let's see, sometimes, yeah, you can move a little so you can get different views. So like if I wanted to look over there and now I want to see this one and I could see the Temple of the Warriors. Now I could add another point of interest. So if I'm looking at this and I'm like, actually, I want to tell them about this thing. So I can add a point of interest. Whatever that random thing might be. Now put it there. That's not where I wanted it. I wanted it right there. I can put in my description. And then I can even do my site narration. Okay, so using one of those voice recorders that we talked about before, you could do your site narration and include little bits about this image, that point of interest that I've made up. Now, the other thing to see in this is, okay, so I've explored Chichen Itza. All along the bottom here, you can see others. So next, because it's the 7 new wonders of the world, I can go explore Petra. And so they can move through the different pieces down here at the bottom. So if you were doing this and you're like, actually, we're not going to explore Rio de Janeiro. So you can go to that, you can erase it. We're going to delete it. Rio's gone. So you see you've got lots of different options. Let's say that I was like, no, Rio's not one of the wonders of the world I'm showing. And then I could pick out, and I could say, I'm going to pick out let's go in. We'll just search for somewhere. Let's go with we'll say we're going to Oklahoma City. Why not? So this we'll say is my next wonder of the world, clearly. So I could add that scene. And I've got my 360-degree view now of that area, and I can start adding in all of those things. So you can actually create your own field trip. So if you want to show off parts of your community, or if you want the students to create one on a particular topic, or if you wanted to go and visit a nearby cultural site that you can't right now and isn't offering their own field trip, well, you can use some of these existing images and create your own. So just a different option that I think is kind of fun and neat and could be a helpful tool. Any questions on virtual field trips?
This is almost similar to the that website where you can do the Google Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're using the Google Earth images.
Mm-hmm. And visit the homes of the kids and put address.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, they could be showing off their neighborhood. You would want to be a little bit careful about things like showing off their actual homes and things for privacy reasons. But yeah, they could be showing off their community. All right, well, we'll go to our next thing. The next one is to be able to create a scavenger hunt. So you'll see with this one, and we'll just go ahead and go straight to live. This is one where you can create scavenger hunts for your students to participate in. It's called Goose Chase. Now, the important thing when you go to Goose Chase is that you sign up for the educator account versus the regular account. They have a free regular account and they have a free educator account, but you get more stuff with the free educator account. So that's why you'll want to make sure that you're signing up for that one. On the free account, they call it the basic educator account. The kids can't play individually, they have to play in teams, but they don't have to be in the same place to be on a team. The teams can have up to 5 devices on them, so basically up to 5 students in this virtual way. Now, when you're back in the classroom, you could have 10 kids on a team, they just couldn't be using more than 5 devices on each team. So basically you get 5 teams, 5 devices per team. That's the free account. You can't have the students play individually unless you choose to go with one of the paid accounts. But even with 5 teams at 5 devices a team, you've got 25 kids going right there. You can create as many different scavenger hunts as you want. You can only have one going live at a time on the free account, which most likely you wouldn't be running more than one scavenger hunt at a time anyway. So that's kind of the little caveats of the free versus paid accounts on it. But when you go in, we'll go into my sample game just so you can see. You can put in an image. This is the image the students will see when they go into your game. They would download the app. onto their phone or onto their tablet, whatever device they're using. And they can do it either by searching for your name, or you can give them the code, because when you make the game live, it'll give you a game code and they can put in the game code. And then they're playing a scavenger hunt. Now, as far as the playing part, I'm going to go to this participants part just to show you the playing part before we get into how to create the game. As it's set up by default, when the kids join, they would be randomly assigned to a team. You can pre-create the teams. So you could already pre-create your blue, red, green, yellow, purple teams so that it's a little bit easier and you can assign students to teams. So you can do it either way, but the default is it's going to just automatically create teams for them. Now, we'll go back to game info and show you how to make one. You put in your name and description. You don't have to put in a game location, but if you're not going to give them a game code, the game location can help them find your game easier. And then you can put a password on it. So if you want to make sure that only your students are able to join your game and prevent anybody from accidentally joining, just pop a password on there and give the kids the password. Once you set that, then you start adding missions. Now, mission lists are the different things the kids have to do in the scavenger hunt. You can either create them on your own. So for example, I'm going to use Charlene's example that she was working on the handling verbs. So look at the picture and both say and act out the correct handling verb for the picture. Okay. So I put in, and I might actually put that more as the description. So we'll move that. That's my mission description. Maybe the name of this particular mission is just handling verbs. I assign it points. So maybe this is a 500-point mission. I can attach an image here and put whatever the item is. So I could put a basket there, or I could put a rock, or I could put whatever I wanted that picture to be, or I could attach a link. So maybe if I wanted them to watch a video or look at a website, I could do that. This little one is not where you're attaching the image. That's why I point out the difference here. The image you want the kids to look at, attach it here, and you can put whatever you want. The one here is, how are they going to solve this mission? Is it that it's going to be a photo video mission? So with this, they're either going to submit a photo or a video as their answer. Is it a text mission? With this, they would just provide you with a text-based answer to that mission. Or do they have to check in somewhere? This one we probably wouldn't use until we're back in in-person school, but you can do a locational check-in where using GPS on their device, they would show that they went to wherever you asked them to go. So for this one, we want photo video. And then I hit Save Changes. And now that's one of my missions. And you can move them around and put them in different orders and things like that. Okay. So now we've got this. Go to mission banks at the top, and you can actually use some of the existing ones. So I can look through and say, oh, copper column, make a tower of pennies at least 30 high. So maybe you want to mix in some silly ones with some of the more educational ones. So I could add that. It's going to add it to my mission list. Here's copper column. And I can edit it, and I can say, actually, that's going to be 1,000 points. And I want it to be 100 pennies high. So you can make any edits you want. Right now, the missions are here in the order of point value. You can do them alphabetical, where they'll show up random. Or what I was trying to do, I thought I had set, was drag and drop, where I could say, okay, I want them to do handling verbs first, then the dictionary one, then get inside a suitcase. Oh, handling verbs didn't go where I wanted. Up at the top, there we go, and move them around that way. It gives you kind of a look here of there's 7 things the kids have to do, how many points you've got at each one. So you can see kind of how everything is coming together. And when you're happy, then you just move on to the next thing in your setup here, okay? Because we did game info. Now we're doing our missions. Now we'll go to our game script. So you'll see, again, how it's going to be set up from when it starts to when it ends. You don't have to do anything else to this. You can leave it just like that. You have the option, though, that you can add automation if you want. So that would be that you can change when something is available. So you could have certain ones that are going to turn off midway through or send a message to all the participants. So maybe I'm going to send a message to all the participants. And this automation is going to be encouragement. And the message I'm going to send out is, you're doing great. Can't wait to see your videos. All right. Then you select when it's going to happen. So you can do relative time, which would be maybe 20 minutes after the game starts, or at the very start or end of the game. Or you could do exact time, because if you know you're running your game from noon to 1 o'clock, you could have it happen at exactly 12:30. But we'll do relative time. I want it to happen 20 minutes after my game starts. I create that, and now you'll see I've got all my missions in there. 20 minutes after my game starts, they're going to get that message. It'll pop up in their app. So you can add little things like that. You can add branding as far as adding in something like maybe your school district or program logo. You could add a link to maybe your school privacy statement or anything you wanted here into this terms of service. We already talked about the participants piece. And then the last piece of setup is to actually start your game. So you can either do it manually and just hit start game, and your scavenger hunt starts, and you'll hit stop when you want it to stop. Or you can set it up for automatic, and you can select, okay, I want it to start tomorrow at noon, and I want it to end tomorrow at 1. Don't feel like it actually, there we go. Tomorrow at noon, set. Tomorrow at 1. Where's my set button? There we go. All right, so now you can see it's scheduled to go. But I can always change my mind and just, oh, I gotta pick a duration. I want it to go on for the next hour. Start my game. So you'll see now, it's not scheduled, it says live. So literally right now, if any of you had this downloaded, you could be doing my scavenger hunt right now. Now that we're in the game, now that you have possibly participants doing this, if they were submitting their missions, you would start seeing in the activity feed what it was that they were submitting to you. So the videos or the text responses that they're submitting. You'd be able to go to your leaderboard and see who's winning. And then the final submissions. And that's where you could go through and do any grading that you might be doing in association with the scavenger hunt. You can even award them bonus points in case one maybe went above and beyond. So lots of different things that you can do there, but it's a pretty user-friendly thing, and it's a way for your kids to be able to work together in groups, even though they're not together in the classroom, because you can combine them on these virtual groups and they can work together virtually to complete the scavenger hunt. So just another option there. Any questions about Goose Chase? All right. So we're going to keep it going because we still have quite a few to go through. Next up, we're going to talk about a couple of academic resources. So one of them is called Real World Math. And the other that we're going to look at is called Socratic and Google Lens. And I know a couple of sessions ago we talked about Socratic, but this is different. This is Socratic, just to be confusing. So we're going to start with Real World Math, and then we'll go over to Socratic and Google Lens. So if you teach math, and I know some of you do not teach math, and that's okay, but I know about half of the folks do teach math in language. So I'm going to show you this resource. Well, it's thinking. Here we go. We'll go real. This is a site that provides activities, lessons, and project-based learning projects with real-world math. So using Google Earth to work with math concepts. And so you can go in and they have different concept lessons, measurement lessons. If you want, in particular, the projects, exploratory lessons, and even a couple of space lessons. You can watch videos on the some of the different concepts here. You can go to tutorials on how the different things used in the lessons. So if you were going to use some of the ones that use Google Earth, you could actually watch a tutorial, or your students could watch a tutorial on how to use Google Earth. They have a great section for the teachers on how to do the lessons. But let's see. Let me go to one of the measurement lessons. And you'll see, they're pointing out, you're not just going to be doing basic measurement, you're applying it to the real world. And so they have lessons using Google Earth to work on area, crop circles, estimating distances, all kinds of different things that put those math concepts into the real world, and in particular into the literal physical world. So just a neat way to make that a little more hands-on, a little more real, and connect it to your own community. So that's one. That's very specific to those of you teaching math. But the other one is a little bit more open. So Socratic and Google Lens work very similarly. So I wanted to explain them together. They're both owned by Google. The biggest difference being Google Lens only has an app on an Android device, so an Android tablet or an Android phone. Socratic works on any type of device. Other than that, they basically work the same. So, if you don't know what kinds of devices your students are using, I would go with Socratic because it's just going to be easier because you don't have to worry about what type of device. Whereas with Google Lens, it's only going to work on an Android style device where they can use that Google piece. But they can take a picture. See how they're taking a picture of that math problem, and then it's going to explain to them how to work it out. And if there's a video available, it'll pull the video. It'll show them other links on the web of resources for that. You'll see here, they're saying their homework problem. What's the difference between distance and displacement? And it's again, bringing up an explanation and links to other resources that might help them understand whatever homework question they're struggling with. So while this will not help them with language specific learning, because I tested it with that and it went abysmally, with any of their content specific homework, it can really give them some good backup when you're not live in the classroom with them. So I said, Socratic, any kind of device, Google Lens on an Android style device. And it goes up through high school, up through 12th grade. It says it also has college level subjects. I have not tested it with that. just because none of the grantees work with that age level, but it goes all the way up through 12th grade. I saw Marcia's question there in the chat box. Great question. And it particularly has a lot of really good examples for math and science. I noticed it has lots of good links and things for those math and science pieces. So that's another one. It can just be a good resource, particularly for your students when they might be stuck and they need some help before your next class time. So there's those resources. Any other questions on real world math, Socratic, or Google Lens? All right. And I'm sorry if you're getting that background noise. Apparently my next door neighbor either has some type of motorbike or something going on over there. They only do strange things when I'm on the Zoom. All right, now our last bit is some resources for some trauma-informed teaching and learning activities and different things along that line. So we're going to talk about 3 different ones. One of them is teaching tolerance. One is StoryCorps. And the last one we'll look at is the Global Oneness Project. So as usual, we'll go to those lives so you can actually see how they work. So we'll move here out of Socratic into Teaching Tolerance. If you haven't ever checked out Teaching Tolerance, they are a long-running nonprofit. They have tons of resources for teachers. Really great videos and associated discussion guides and curricular activities. They have lots of different topics and lots of just great things about not only very content driven, so about learning about other cultures, about exploring different societal issues, but they also have some really good resources on just teaching students how to be better communicators, teaching students how to feel more comfortable expressing themselves, both their emotions and their thoughts. And so they kind of explore both ends, which is really nice. You can go into their classroom resources. They also have a lot of free professional development, but we're going to look at their classroom resources. And we'll go down and you'll see they have lessons, learning plans, student text tasks, teaching strategies. You can actually use their learning plan builder to put things together. And then they have film kits and printable posters. So as we go down, you can kind of see how all of it is laid up. They also are the ones who sponsor, if you've ever heard of Mix It Up, it's an international campaign trying to get students to cross social boundaries, to be open to new people and new things. And they do it at lunch one day where students are encouraged to all sit with someone different and using those small steps to try new things. So that's another neat thing that can be done, particularly when you're back in person. But if we go over to these lessons, you'll see you can filter by grade level, by a social justice domain. So if you're in particular wanting to focus on one, if you want to look at a particular subject or a particular topic. And so you have lots of options of how you can look at different things. If we wanted in particular to maybe look at bullying, and you'll see it already is coming up with 70 lessons. If I decide I want it for my 3rd to 5th graders, get it down a little further to 38. And then I can really start going in and thinking about, okay, do I want to talk about examining stereotypes in books or talking about cliques? And then just like with anything, you can go in. So this one on, it's okay to feel different. It's a really great activity that I've actually seen done. It gives you the objectives and some essential questions, tells you exactly what you're going to need for this. And often if it's something like this, where you're going to make a jigsaw puzzle, it'll give you a link to a free resource for that. You would need this book that you would either need to get from a library or order, and then any consumable supplies, any vocabulary words that you would need to address with students, and then walks you piece by piece through how to do it so that you can make it yours or just plug and play the activity. And it gives then some ways to help the students really apply what they've learned to their own lives and to the real world, and a number of extension activities. So most of them are laid out exactly like this. The only difference being if it's one that is associated with one of their film clips or videos, it'll give you a link to that. But lots of great resources there. The next one that we'll look at quickly is StoryCorps. So with StoryCorps, there's a couple of different things you can do with this. They're kind of billed as this, the conversation of a lifetime. StoryCorps is all about documenting stories, and they do this through an interview. It is not done through a formal interview. It is not done with necessarily famous people. It is done with everyday people. Your students can listen to the stories. There are lots of stories from all different kinds of people on all different kinds of topics. But the other really neat thing they can do is they could actually record their own story, whether it was themselves being interviewed or themselves interviewing someone. This could be a great way to document stories of elders in your community or community leaders where the students are the ones conducting the interview and documenting the knowledge and wisdom and stories of someone within the community. They're typically a 40-minute conversation. It's typically just between one interviewer and one interviewee. And they can do it if they're in one of these larger cities. You can go to like the recording studio and be fancy. But what we would most likely be doing is either doing it with what they call StoryCorps Connect, which is where they would be doing it on something like this, like on Zoom, and they'd be maybe Zooming with whoever the person they're interviewing and record it that way. Or they would be doing it here on the StoryCorps app, where they could use the app on, again, whatever device they have available, and they would be able to record it that way. Now, the difference being, if they're going to use the StoryCorps app, they would have to be in the physical presence of the person they're interviewing, which if they're interviewing a family member or someone who's already in their social distancing bubble, not a dilemma. But if they're interviewing someone outside their bubble, they would want to use the Connect probably so that they can connect remotely and do their interview that way. But just a really neat way both to be able to interact with the stories that already exist and take part in that documentation themselves. So that's this one. Encourage you to check that out. I'm going to hurry and make sure we get in our last one, which is the Global Oneness Project. So this particular resource is an initiative that was started in 2006 by the Calliopeia Foundation. And in this initiative, it's similar to StoryCorps in that they're looking to document these histories, but a little bit different in that they use multimedia stories. So it might be a film, it might be a photo essay, or it might be a written essay. So they use a lot of different formats. For the ones that already exist, if you go to the stories and lesson plans and check out the student photography contest, if you have students who are interested in photography, it's a really neat opportunity. But it does end in October. But to stay on task, you can go down here and you can search all of the different things that they have, whether it's a video, a photo essay, or a written essay, comes with companion curriculum and discussion guides. So again, you can be searching by the type of content that you want, whether you want it in English or Spanish. That doesn't come up as much for us. The subject You can see there's lots of different subjects, including things like Native American studies. You can also do it by theme, anything from ancient cultures, conscious awareness in animals and plants, all kinds of different things. You'll notice language revitalization is one of the options here. So let's say that I want to focus on language revitalization. We'll let it filter, and you can see, I scroll too quickly, but there's a number of videos and lesson plans just on that very specific topic. Now, one in particular that I liked, so I pulled it as my example, was here. It's got a lesson plan and a companion film. It's a 10-minute video called Marie's Dictionary. And you can see it'll give you the themes and things here, any materials you'll need. So you need the video, which is available right there, a way to show it. So you could show it on whatever platform you're using to connect with your students. You're going to use Google Earth or a map, some paper, and somewhere for them to take notes. So not a lot of supplies needed. And it's got its essential questions and a little overview. So this woman, Marie, in the video was the last fluent speaker of Wukchumni. And so she worked for 7 years to keep her language alive by creating her own dictionary of the language since she was the last fluent speaker. And so that's what the video shows. But when you go down, not only does it give you the background, which is really for more you as the teacher, but then it gives you the whole lesson. So it gives you some questions and activities to do prior to watching the video. Then you watch the video, gives you some things to talk about after, and some activities for after. And then the other neat thing is it'll even sometimes have follow-up. So 5 years after they made this video about Marie, they returned to visit her and made another film called Wukchumni. So that could lead you into yet another activity there, or some things that they feel are related around these other language videos. So really well done videos, photos, and essays, as well as the lessons that go along with them on many, many, many different topics. So another great one available here. So I've got 1 minute left. So as we wrap up, any questions on these that we just looked at, the teaching tolerance, the StoryCorps, or the Global Oneness Project, or on any of the ones we've talked about today? All right, well, as we wrap up, this is our final session. This is our 12th group coaching session that we've done this grant year. And I've really enjoyed them, and having this time that's a little bit more informal to engage with all of you and be able to share some different resources and tools. I hope that you've all learned something new in at least one of the 12 sessions, and that it's been helpful for your classrooms. I'll stop the share. Please remember, even though this is our last session of the grant year formally, if you have questions as you're starting to use any of the tools we've talked about, or if you just have questions and you wonder, does a tool exist that could help with that, or a resource, feel free to reach out. That's what I'm here for. You can call, you can email. I'm happy to help. And then we do have one other thing coming up. This is our last group coaching session. Our last event of the grant year is actually next Thursday, September 17th. It's going to be at 4 Eastern, 3 Central, 2 Mountain, 1 Pacific, or high noon in Alaska. And that is our final Promising Program Showcase. And I'm particularly excited about this one because not only will we be revisiting the programs that we have visited before in Montana, as well as in Hawaii, but in the spring, right before everything shut down, we were able to visit 2 of our NAL ED grantees. So the UPIC program in Anchorage and the Ojibwe program at Waduka-Dotting in Wisconsin. And so they will be featured in this webinar as well. So you'll have an opportunity to hear from and take a peek into 6 different native language programs. So really excited about that. Join us. We'll have some of their leaders on live as well as the recorded content. I know some of your team members, just like today, may have class at the exact same time. So please know that we will record the session as well, and that'll be up on our playlist as usual. But if you are able to join live, I think you'll really enjoy it, and it'll be a great opportunity to ask them some questions too. So that is it for today. If you have questions, I will stay on and answer any you might have. But otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.